Now, at some point within our OODA loop, we're going to decide, or we should realize, the need to either hunker down and look for cover and concealment, or we just need to escape and get the heck out of there. All right? So with that in mind, should we stay or should we go as it relates to the urban interface as a whole? So that we're working up to escaping the city, or thoughts of, hey, it's so bad, we need to just make our way out of town at this point, all right? So, some things we have to keep in mind when we begin even discussing the need to leave our urban, suburban home or apartment, whatever, and go to an alternate location. One, wars have been fought in urban areas for hundreds of years, and people continued on with their daily life. We can look at World War II, we can look at Bosnia, Serbia, Herzegovina, all these different places. Israel and Gaza currently, they're bombing each other right now, and they're still living there. People are still fighting. Those that aren't fighting are still trying to go about their daily lives under the threat of constant military invasion and attacks. So you can stay, but think of what you're staying in. So that's something that we need to think about and consider. Number two, it's familiar. You know the area. You know where everything is. You know where the resources are. You know where your neighbors live. Once things are bombed out or potentially wiped off or burned out or destroyed, will you still be able to take advantage of those resources? Will you still realize where all those once very familiar surroundings existed? Maybe, maybe not. But that's something to be considerate of. It is a familiar surrounding, so you may not want to leave it until you absolutely must. Number three, stealth and operational security are going to be vitally important. If there is a big deal going on, you cannot give your position away. You don't even want your neighbors or people that are out roving the streets to know where you're at. That is because there's too much stress on available resources, and what they don't have, they will take. My grandmother, who lived through the Great Depression, told me a story, and they lived all the way up in Vincennes, Indiana. This is my great-grandmother, by the way. She said my grandpa would go out and trapping, trying to find food. He'd go hunting and trapping trips and often come back with what he called spatsies, little songbirds, and that was all he could usually get a hold of. But she'd be in home and using whatever meager rations they could get. She'd be making some cakes or cornbreads or something. Always trying to keep things going for my grandparents, or my grandma in that case. Anyway, it was very common for people to come up and knock on her door begging. And this is way out in Vincennes, Indiana, in the middle of nowhere. And they would ride in on the railways, and they would just come. And Grandpa had to run off by force on more than one occasion, people that got a little too aggressive, or some that just broke in altogether looking for stuff. So they became more hermit-like and kind of shutting things down and made it look like they weren't there all the time. So more often than not, their place was just bypassed as it looked more abandoned. But when you read about the Great Depression, it says 5 miles on both sides of every major roadway. This is a long time ago, obviously. It was pretty much wiped out of all resources. Anything of value as it relates to food, medicine, alcohol, weaponry, etc. Anything of good value was taken. It was just gone. Now, look at all the roads we have today in comparison to the 30s. We have, 10 times as many roads today with 5 times the population. So how much worse will it be in our time if something like that were to occur? Well, again, I refer back to our toilet paper crisis of 2019, or rather 2020, and I can recall vividly people coming. I'm 30 miles from the nearest decent-sized town, And I'm 67 miles from a downtown area of a big city like Louisville or Lexington or Cincinnati. Well, I'm out in the country. And you can get to a grocery 15 miles away, but it's a small Save-A-Lot, Dollar General type place. So I'm at Dollar General just picking up some other stuff. I don't know what I was getting, something remedial. And there were people coming all the way from Louisville just in a panic trying to buy toilet paper at our store that was fully stocked. We all look at each other and laugh because none of us needed toilet paper. We always got plenty. But these people were panicked. They had been through several stores, through a few different counties looking, and they couldn't find anything. So they just happened to look up Dollar Generals, and they're just going around hitting everyone they could find. When they got to ours, instead of buying an armload if it was such a crisis, they bought the most expensive pack that they could get. So those 9 rolls were supposed to last them through this crisis. Well, the neighbors and I looked at each other and were like, we better go ahead and get some too. So we all got the same. It's like instinctive. We all buy not the worst because we don't want sandpaper on our butt, but we would get middle of the road. We all got middle of the road instinctively, grabbed it, and we both got 2, and we just all went on our merry way, still fully stocked. I went by the next day, and it was wiped out. Everybody had wiped it out, and they didn't get any more for weeks. So it's happened in 2008 with kerosene in this area, people coming from Louisville all the way out here. I've seen these things in my lifetime, and I know that people get crazy. So how much worse will it be when hyperinflation truly occurs, or when the dollar collapses, or any number of these what-if situations we've discussed does occur? Well, stealth and operational security become that much more important. We can't let others know what we got and why we got it. So we have to be smart in how we do this. All this, again, plays into that OODA loop. Situational awareness. Urban areas, another thing to consider before we go, urban areas are going to be the first to receive any type of aid. So think of your electricity, most of your stores are in an urban area. So they're going to receive aid first to get those active. So power comes back on, government operations can resume, etc. So they're going to be the first to receive aid. They're also going to be the bases or serve as the base of operations or even the forward operating base of military actions and aid actions. So they typically go to a city center and that's where aid is handed out. The reason they do that is because city centers and the people that live within the city center are the most dependent on the resources of that city. They're often the poorest people. You see the most homeless people down in the city centers. That's because that's where all the resources are doled out. So they go to the city center to distribute those type of resources. It's also where the military would be more than likely in that type of a scenario. We know military and police presence is going to be down there. And then of course there's going to be rioting at the onset of anything. So we've again seen this in our lifetime very recently, and we're still seeing it sporadically here in 2021 as I make this video. Anything related to hurt feelings, injustices of any type can spark riots. So we have to be aware that if we are going to stay in the urban area, these are threats that we will have to deal with. And depending on where we live in the urban area, how we live in that urban area, may dictate whether or not we need to leave or whether or not we can continue to shelter in place. So a lot of that will depend on the resources that we have prepared in advance for sheltering in place. So now that we understand essential situational awareness and how to work our way through the process of decision making as it relates to awareness, now let's kind of move over into saying, okay, we know that there is an event and we need to plan to stay or go. So now we're going to start looking at things that will enable us to stay at home and about for how long, and the types of kits that we need to mobilize are pre-planned so that when we do mobilize, we can use them most effectively.